Though always considered close, cheerful neighbors with much in common, it seems the brotherly love between the U.S. and Canada is facing a major challenge on supermarket shelves and in restaurants. It's not political disputes or border conflicts, but rather the quiet, unassuming Canadian consumers who are terrifyingly boycotting prominent Made in America brands. Subway, Walmart, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Home Depot, names that once dominated the Maple Leaf country, are now seeing devastating revenue drops and mass store closures. What caused these kings to lose their standing? Have Canadians simply grown tired of American-style fries, or have they just found true love with local brands? Let's delve into a quiet rebellion by Canadians and the valuable lessons for any brand looking to win consumers' hearts. The quiet rebellion of the Maple Leaf. Buy Canadian takes the throne. There was a time when anywhere in Canada you'd easily spot Subway's familiar yellow and green or Walmart's bright red logo. They were like friendly neighbors, present in every corner, from bustling downtown areas to peaceful small towns. For many Canadians, these American brands weren't just places to shop or grab fast food. They were part of daily life, a symbol of convenience, variety, and perhaps even a touch of American spirit woven in. We can picture Canadian families lining up for Subway sandwiches after hockey practice, or elderly homemakers carefully picking out items at Walmart, where they believed they'd find everything at the most affordable prices. That relationship seemed as steadfast as maple roots, clinging deep to the motherland. But then, something unexpected happened. In 2025, a quiet but powerful wave of change swept across Canada, not driven by a loud protest or a government decree, but by the very ordinary purchasing decisions of its people. They weren't burning signs or carrying protest banners. They simply stopped buying. Sounds humorous, right? Yet, this is a very serious rebellion, a sign that something profound has shifted in the Canadian psyche. For years, we Americans have prided ourselves on the strength of our Made in America brands, seeing them as symbols of stability and quality. We've grown accustomed to our giant chain stores expanding worldwide, bringing American culture and lifestyle everywhere. For Canada, our friendly and closest neighbor, the dominance of American brands seemed obvious. Who would have thought that these seemingly easygoing neighbors are quietly pulling the curtains, bidding farewell to those familiar icons? Take Subway, for instance. Once a healthy and convenient choice for a quick lunch, Subway became an indispensable part of Canadian urban life. But then, like a fairy tale broken, trust slowly eroded. Reports about questionable chicken meat or ambiguous vegetable quality shattered Subway's healthy image. Instead of explaining or improving, Subway resorted to old-school promotions, as if believing cheap prices are enough. But Canadians, known for their discernment and health consciousness, felt disrespected. This wasn't just about a sandwich, it was about pride. Since the pandemic, the buy local sentiment in Canada has surged. People started feeling uneasy about what they called American brands. Phrases like, "Canada is not the 51st state," or "Buy Canadian" flooded social media, even appearing on store signs. In their eyes, Subway wasn't just selling sandwiches, it had become a soft symbol of deep American influence. They realized how deeply U.S. brands had embedded themselves in Canadian life, and decided it was time to push back. Subway's closure of over 400 stores in just 2 years not only affected franchise-owning families, but also disrupted the food supply chain from the U.S. to Canada, even forcing a packaging plant in Illinois to cut staff. Walmart also wasn't immune to this trend. Though a global retail giant in Canada, Walmart is slowly losing its appeal, especially among older, once loyal customers. With prices skyrocketing nearly 17% over the past year, Canadians are forced to think twice before every shopping trip. This isn't just a simple economic issue, it's an awakening of community values. Instead of Walmart, they're turning to smaller, more familiar supermarkets like No Frills or Giant Tiger, where they feel they're investing trust in their own community. Even younger generations, who are quick to adopt trends, are being drawn into this buy local wave. The True North Market app, which connects consumers with local stores, had over 1 million downloads in May 2025 alone. It seems that in an increasingly chaotic world, Canadians are seeking comfort and connection from what feels closest and most familiar. They're willing to pay a little more for peace of mind and a sense of belonging. Walmart's 12% revenue drop in Q1 2025 and its need to close warehouses and reduce employee hours aren't just dry numbers. They tell a story of affected families, single mothers, and part-time students facing hardship. This shows that no matter how big a brand is, if it fails to create a genuine connection with the community, its position can quickly crumble. Canadians, or any consumers for that matter, ultimately want to feel connected and confident about where they spend their money. This story isn't just an economic lesson. It's a reminder of the importance of trust, connection, and adaptability. When a brand, even a symbol of the American dream, no longer understands and shares values with its customers, even the friendliest neighbor can quietly turn their back. And that's precisely the most terrifying part. Broken trust. When giants lose their way. If the quiet boycott by Canadians is a play, then the loss of trust is the tragic element pushing the main characters to a dead end. It's no accident that giants like Subway, McDonald's, and Home Depot fell from grace in the very land that once adored them. The issue isn't just that Canadians want to support local goods. More profoundly, it's a breakdown in relationships, a feeling of betrayal from brands they had trusted and been loyal to for decades. Let's start with Subway. Once the hero of fast food, yet striving for a healthy vibe, Subway had captured the hearts of busy people and those seeking a lighter meal. Its yellow and green logo became part of the Canadian urban landscape. But then, reports from Canadian media began to reveal a harsh truth. Was the chicken in the famous sandwich truly 100% chicken? Or was it blended with all sorts of fillers consumers knew nothing about? Then the quality of the vegetables also came into question. Imagine how a meticulous Canadian would feel, realizing the healthy meal they'd trusted for so long wasn't healthy at all, as advertised. It wasn't just disappointment about the food. It was skepticism about the integrity of an entire major brand. And Subway's reaction? Instead of a sincere apology, a transparent commitment to improvement, they chose to push old-school promotions like $5 combos or fast food smart choices messages. For Canadians, known for their sophistication and quality consciousness, this was nothing short of a slap in the face. It was as if Subway was saying, "You don't need to know what we put in your sandwich, as long as it's cheap and convenient." With such a deaf-to-criticism attitude, how could trust not waver? Canadians aren't so hard up for money that they'd blindly accept a subpar product just for a cheap price. They felt disrespected, exploited, and that's a dangerous emotion for any brand. Next is McDonald's, an icon of childhood, of birthday parties filled with laughter and funny paper hats. For 80s and 90s generations in Canada, McDonald's wasn't just a fast food restaurant. It was a part of their memories, a sanctuary of joy. Nobody worried about prices or the brand's American origin. McDonald's was simply default happiness. But then, in 2025, that sanctuary is slowly disappearing from Canada's emotional map. The problem began with seemingly small changes, meals getting shrunk. A Big Mac combo now costs 34% more than in 2023, But the burger is tiny, the cheese slice transparently thin, and the fries are half the portion yet still served in the same large box. Feeling cheated. That's the phrase many Canadians uttered. It wasn't that they couldn't afford it. It was that they felt disrespected. But even sadder is McDonald's transformation from a warm, human-centered place into a cold, automated machine. There was a time when McDonald's was a refuge for the homeless on freezing winter nights, where they could sit and use the restroom without being shooed away by staff. It was a last light on the street, not just for the hungry, but for lonely souls. But now, over 300 McDonald's stores in Canada have closed or transitioned to an automated model with no seating, no friendly staff. Only cold kiosks remain, with screens displaying impersonal thank yous. McDonald's cut 1/3 of its staff, unintentionally severing the invisible thread connecting it to the community. Smiles, patience, a nod to a stranger. The small things that once made this brand beloved have vanished. A painful paradox. McDonald's once thrived on childhood memories, but today's young Canadian generation no longer has those memories. No more play areas, no more balloons, no more Ronald McDonald clowns. McDonald's is just a convenient option, like any other automated store. As uniqueness fades, so does affection. Then came Home Depot, once the best friend of every Canadian family for home renovation projects. Billions of dollars in annual revenue came from builders, homeowners, and young couples dreaming of their first home. But that trust is now rusting like a forgotten old hinge. Soaring building material prices were a fatal blow. Engineered wood up 33%, wall paint up 26%, electrical equipment up 18%. A home renovation project suddenly became a financial burden. But beyond prices, Home Depot's internal changes also made Canadians feel alienated. Local brands were phased out. Made in USA products were pushed under pressure from U.S. headquarters, and local suppliers had their contracts cut one by one. Instead of feeling like part of the community, many Canadians now feel like they're just fattening up a giant foreign corporation, distant and unaccountable to the local economy. A Quebec contractor had to awkwardly explain that the ladder he bought at Home Depot looked very Canadian, but was actually made in Texas. That's just a small example of the growing disconnect. A bitter taste in the Coca-Cola. When convenience is no longer enough. After the shocks of quality issues and cold service, the story of Coca-Cola in Canada takes on a different, more profound, and perhaps even more thought-provoking tone. This isn't about blended chicken or shrunk meals. It's about a feeling of abandonment, a breakdown in the emotional connection Canadians once held for a global icon. There was a time when a glass of Coca-Cola wasn't just a drink. It was part of the Canadian family atmosphere. From summer picnics and lively birthday parties to cozy family dinners, the hiss of a Coke can opening became a familiar sound, as comforting as children's laughter. It was an invisible thread connecting generations, something Pepsi, despite its vibrant youth-oriented campaigns, could never quite match. Coca-Cola had permeated every corner of life, every Canadian heart, capturing over 60% of the carbonated soft drink market, a dream figure for any brand. But then, in 2025, the unexpected happened. Coca-Cola, that longtime friend, suddenly became a stranger in the refrigerators of millions of Canadian households. There were no protest slogans, no marches, just a silent absence. According to a report from Consumer Watch Canada, Coca-Cola consumption dropped nearly 22% in just the first quarter of 2025. A shocking figure for a brand that once dominated this market. Meanwhile, local, natural beverages like kombucha and maple water surged, especially among the over 55 age group, those who were once Coke's most ardent fans. Why did they turn away? Simply put, it wasn't a rash rebellion, but a feeling of being abandoned. Everyone understands that rising prices and fluctuating ingredient costs are common in business. But Coca-Cola in Canada offered no clear price reductions or support policies. Instead, the company shifted resources back to the U.S., its homeland, and cut investments in Canadian production facilities. Some plants were shut down, and products were no longer adapted to local tastes. Most importantly, Canadians felt that the brand, which had been so close to them for so long, now felt distant, like a foreign giant only interested in profit without sharing the burden. Try to put yourself in the shoes of a mother in Calgary who shared, "My child still likes Coke, but I don't want to teach them to accept injustice just because it's convenient. I choose not to buy it anymore." That emotion wasn't loud, but it was powerful enough to shake the market. For us Americans, this story is a wake-up call. Coca-Cola is a symbol of the American dream and culture. But looking at Canada, our close neighbor, and witnessing this market loss, we can't help but reflect. It's not just a simple business lesson, but a lesson in how to maintain customer trust. When Canadians turned away, they chose products tied to local values, community, sharing, and understanding. Things a global brand like Coke sometimes unintentionally overlooks. Coca-Cola Canada did try to win them back with the Taste the Tradition campaign, hoping to rekindle familiar images of warm family meals with soda. But sadly, the campaign was seen as insincere, as it came without any real support or meaningful changes. Canadians knew that empty promises wouldn't be enough to keep them. A can of Coca-Cola isn't just a consumer product. It's a part of life, of trust and emotion. When those values are threatened, consumer reaction isn't simply reduced purchases, it's a silent but powerful boycott. And that's the clearest lesson. A brand cannot survive on profit alone. It must live on empathy by sharing and understanding customers like family members. Without that, even a global icon can be left behind. A sip of soda may seem simple, but when the bond is gone, it can taste bitter. A bitter taste and shrunken burgers. McDonald's loses its childhood love. If the story of Coca-Cola in Canada was about the fading of an emotional connection, then the Canadian public's turning away from McDonald's is a tragedy of forgotten childhood memories. With its bright golden arches, McDonald's was more than just a fast food restaurant. It was a place that held ringing laughter, first birthday parties with silly paper hats, and Happy Meal boxes containing a whole world of unexpected delights. It wasn't just food, it was an experience, a part of growing up for generations of Canadian children throughout the 80s and 90s. Who would have thought that this sacred place would slowly disappear from the very land that once cherished it so deeply? By 2025, McDonald's in Canada is quietly fading from consumers' emotional map. Sounds paradoxical, right? Canadians still need fast food and still seek convenience, but they're no longer choosing McDonald's. They're flocking to Tim Hortons, seeking local burger joints with a truer flavor, or simply packing their own lunches from home. There's something about today's McDonald's that makes Canadians feel alienated, not because the food has gotten worse, but because the experience isn't the same. It's like meeting an old friend after many years, but that friend has changed so much you no longer recognize them. The problem began with a small detail that hit consumers where it hurt. Meals are shrinking while prices are skyrocketing. Imagine, a Big Mac combo now averages $14.75 Canadian, a 34% increase from 2023. This is a staggering figure amidst inflation. But what truly shocked customers wasn't the price, but the size. The burger patty is smaller than a palm, the cheese slice so thin it's nearly transparent, and the fries are half the portion but still served in the same large box. Many Canadians, especially older generations, admit they feel cheated. It wasn't that they couldn't afford it, it was that they felt disrespected. For them, value wasn't in ingredients or technology, but in the feeling of being served as they once were. A meal that was worth the money, exactly as advertised. That feeling has now vanished. The loss of humanity and childhood magic. But McDonald's tragedy isn't just about meal sizes. It lies in the transformation from a place with heart into a cold, automated machine. There was a time when McDonald's was the last light on the street, open 24/7, serving not just the hungry, but also providing a safe haven for the homeless on cold nights. They weren't chased away just for not ordering. They had tables to sit at, clean restrooms, and even staff who sometimes knew what they needed. A former employee in Toronto once shared, "We knew who needed what, and we wouldn't kick them out just because they didn't pay." That was a human aspect, a part of McDonald's soul that touched the community's heart. However, as of 2025, over 300 McDonald's outlets in Canada have either closed or switched to automated models with no seating, no more tables, no more friendly staff, no more eat-in or take-out in the traditional sense. Instead, there are cold kiosks, impersonal ordering tablets, and thank you messages displayed on screens. McDonald's has cut 1/3 of its staff, and this has unintentionally severed the invisible thread connecting it to the community. The little things that made the brand beloved, a smile, patience, a nod to a stranger, have vanished along with these staff reductions. A heartbreaking paradox is that McDonald's once thrived on childhood memories, but today's young generation in Canada no longer holds those memories. A 2024 survey by Youth Voice Canada shows that only 28% of those under 25 consider McDonald's a part of their childhood, while over 64% prioritize local brands tied to Canadian values. Children today grow up without in-store play areas, no balloons, no Ronald McDonald clowns. McDonald's is no longer joy, it's just a convenient choice, like any automated store. As uniqueness fades, so does affection. The numbers speak volumes. This loss of affection has translated into alarming figures. According to StatCan and McDonald's annual reports, revenue in Canada decreased by 11% in Q1 2025 compared to the same period last year. The number of stores nationwide has also fallen from over 1,450 to approximately 1,200. For the first time in over 2 decades, McDonald's market share in the Canadian fast food industry has dropped below 20%, ceding ground to Canadian brands like A&W, Tim Hortons, and small artisanal burger joints. Home no longer a haven. Home Depot loses family trust. If Subway stumbled on quality, McDonald's lost its childhood love, and Coca-Cola faded emotionally, then Home Depot's story is an even more profound warning. It's a crack in the relationship tied to the core values of the Canadian family. Home Depot, with its bright orange carts and endless aisles overflowing with tools, was once an indispensable best friend to every Canadian household. It was like a family member, always ready to help you with any project, big or small, from repainting the living room to building a charming new garden shed. As a giant that dominated the home improvement and building materials market in Canada, Home Depot generated billions in annual revenue, attracting everyone from professional builders to young couples dreaming of their first home. The trust placed in it was so immense, you wouldn't think that one day it could rust like a forgotten old hinge. Yet, in 2025, that trust began to fracture. Canadians are visiting Home Depot less and less, not because their homes need fewer repairs, but because their trust in the brand has eroded. First came the unacceptable surge in building material prices. In just 1 year, engineered wood prices rose 33%, wall paint 26%, and electrical equipment 18%. These figures aren't just costs. They transformed home renovation projects from a joy, an investment in one's home, into a terrible financial burden. Who wants to fix up their home when prices are fluctuating wildly like that? It's like trying to assemble a puzzle, but each piece costs the sky. Beyond that, Home Depot's internal changes stripped away the sense of familiarity for Canadians. Local brands, once popular and trusted, were gradually phased out to make room for Made in USA products, under pressure from the U.S. headquarters. Local suppliers, long-standing partners, also had their contracts cut one by one. This created a feeling of alienation, as if Home Depot no longer wanted to integrate into the community, but was merely a giant foreign corporation, unaccountable to the local economy. A contractor in Quebec had to awkwardly explain to a customer that the ladder he bought at Home Depot looked very Canadian, but was actually manufactured all the way in Texas. That's just a small example of the growing disconnect between the brand and consumers. It's like an old friend suddenly changing their tune, no longer wanting to hear your stories. But the final straw was the allegation of customer privacy violations in early 2025. A class action lawsuit revealed that Home Depot had shared customers' personal shopping data with Meta without clear disclosure. This didn't just cause severe reputational damage. It made customers feel betrayed, even exploited. In the digital age, data privacy is an extremely sensitive issue, and a major brand acting with such a lack of transparency is unacceptable. It's like trusting a friend with your house keys only to find out they've freely made copies for others. That betrayal, more than anything, led many Canadians to quietly, unceremoniously turn their backs. What was the result? A significant drop in Home Depot's revenue in Canada, with Statista reporting a nearly 15% decline in 2025. Many stores had to downsize or even close, impacting the entire supply chain, from contractors and construction workers to nearby small businesses. When fewer people are repairing and renovating homes, it's not just Home Depot that suffers. The entire local ecosystem is affected. Canadians' reaction to this breach of trust isn't just a boycott. It's a complete shift to alternatives. Many are returning to small local hardware stores and local suppliers, where they feel more connected and valued. Small building material markets across the provinces are seeing a significant increase in customers. This isn't just an economic act. It's an expression of loyalty to community and trust, especially at a time when large corporations are becoming increasingly distant. Furthermore, suppliers of recycled materials and community-based construction organizations are also gaining popularity. Canadians, particularly middle-aged and older individuals, now prioritize sustainable options, not just to save money, but as a new approach based on practical value and social responsibility. It's also a subtle resistance to uncontrolled commercialization and lack of transparency from large brands. A wake-up call from the North, when Made in America is no longer a charm. We've witnessed the unexpected fall from grace of American giants in Canada. From Subway's seemingly harmless sandwiches, McDonald's familiar burgers, the Coca-Cola that was once the soul of family meals, to the hammers and nails in Home Depot. All are facing a quiet boycott storm. This isn't just a story about individual brands. It's a warning, an alarm bell echoing from the distant north, when Made in America is no longer a charm. For decades, we Americans have prided ourselves on our economic and cultural strength. American brands expanded globally, carrying the symbols of innovation, quality, and convenience. We always believed that wherever it was, as long as a product bore the Made in America mark, it would have a special appeal, an unshakable position. Canada, our closest neighbor, with a culture and lifestyle that shares many similarities, seem to be the fertile and safest market for American businesses. Who would have thought that right there? That very trust is being severely shaken. The collapse of American brands in Canada isn't an isolated phenomenon. It's the culmination of many factors, creating a complex picture of changing global consumer psychology. First and foremost, it's a loss of trust. When Subway was accused of blended chicken quality, when McDonald's cut portions while raising prices, and when Home Depot was found to violate privacy, these weren't just minor business errors. They were a breach of an implicit promise between brand and customer, a promise of honesty, of value for money, and of respect. Consider a brand like McDonald's, once a friend to children, once a refuge for the vulnerable, now transforming into a cold, automated machine, lacking human interaction. This not only diminishes the shopping experience, but also makes customers feel alienated, seen as numbers on a screen, rather than individuals needing care. Canadians, known for their friendly and thoughtful nature, would certainly feel uncomfortable with this change. They don't need speed so much that they'd sacrifice kindness. Secondly, there's a shift in core consumer values. In the context of a volatile global economy and rising inflation, Canadians are seeking more substantive values. They are no longer chasing absolute convenience or temporary bargains. Instead, they prioritize sustainability, social responsibility, and, most importantly, community connection. They're turning away from Walmart to support local supermarkets like No Frills or Giant Tiger is the clearest proof. They are willing to pay a little more, accept slightly fewer choices, as long as they know their money is contributing to nurturing the local economy, supporting neighbors, and building a stronger community. This isn't just an economic act, it's a cultural statement. The Buy Canadian wave isn't just a slogan. It reflects a deep desire of the Canadian people to forge their own identity, to step out of the overly large shadow of their southern neighbor. They want to prove that Canada is not the 51st state of the U.S., but an independent nation with distinct values and priorities. Thirdly, this story is also a wake-up call about the danger of resting on laurels. American brands have been too complacent with their king status, believing that simply bringing their reputation and successful business model from the U.S. is enough to conquer any market. They've overlooked the most crucial factor: understanding and adapting to local culture, with the unique desires and values of each community. Coca-Cola focusing resources solely on the U.S. market while neglecting Canada, or Home Depot cutting local suppliers, are serious strategic blunders. It demonstrates a lack of respect, and this lack of respect has come at a steep price. And here's the most concerning part. If friendly, English-speaking Canadians, whose tastes aren't too different from ours, can turn their backs on American brands, then who's to say Germans, Japanese, or Mexicans will continue to love an American brand that's slowly losing its identity? This erosion of trust could spread like a domino effect, from Canada to Europe, Asia, and even boomerang back to the U.S. itself. We Americans ourselves have gradually turned away from Subway after scandals about quality and image. The lesson from Canada is a stark warning to all of us Americans and to every business worldwide. A brand doesn't just exist for profit, it exists because of trust, emotional connection, and adaptability. In a constantly changing world, where consumers are increasingly smart, conscious, and demanding, relying on past glory or mere convenience will no longer suffice. When values change towards a more sustainable consumer future. We've explored the story of American giants stumbling in Canada, not due to political reasons or trade disputes, but because of a quiet boycott by consumers themselves. It's a stark warning to anyone who still believes Made in America is an eternal charm. But more profoundly, this story isn't just about the failure of American brands. It's proof of a deep shift in global consumer psychology, a movement from prioritizing convenience and low prices to seeking authentic value, community connection, and social responsibility. There was a time when the concept of value in shopping primarily revolved around two axes: affordability and maximum convenience. We were willing to crowd into Walmart for a slightly cheaper item or drop by Subway for a quick lunch, even if the quality wasn't outstanding. That was the formula for success for many large corporations for decades. Yet, Canadians are proving that this formula is no longer entirely effective. They're redefining value in their own unique way, emphasizing community and human connection. This is most clearly demonstrated by their willingness to pay a little more to support local grocery stores like No Frills or Giant Tiger. This isn't just an economic act, it's an investment in their own community. When buying from a local store, Canadians know their money will stay within the local economy, helping create jobs for neighbors and contributing to maintaining the diversity of small businesses. It provides a sense of security, a connection that even giant supermarket chains, no matter how convenient, struggle to deliver. The rise of apps like True North Market is a powerful testament to this trend. The app isn't just a tool to help consumers find local stores. It's also a bridge, an invisible thread connecting buyers and sellers within the same community. It allows Canadians to vote with their wallets for the values they believe in: authenticity, loyalty, and sustainability. This is a quiet revolution, where technology is used not to optimize profits for large corporations, but to strengthen small communities. Another crucial factor is environmental awareness and sustainability. In the context of climate change and concerns about the impact of mass consumption, Canadians, especially middle-aged and older generations, are prioritizing environmentally friendly choices. They're turning to recycled material suppliers or community-based building organizations shows a new approach, not just for cost savings, but also for social responsibility. They don't just want to buy a product, they want to buy a sustainable solution, a part of a better future. This is also a subtle resistance to uncontrolled commercialization and lack of transparency from large brands, where origins and production process are sometimes concealed. From the stories of Subway, McDonald's to Home Depot, we see a common thread. These brands have lost their ability to emotionally connect with customers. They focus too much on data, operational efficiency, and maximizing profits, forgetting that people shop not just with their minds, but with their hearts. When a brand is merely a place to buy things and no longer a part of life, it becomes very easy to replace. This shift in consumer psychology isn't limited to Canada. This is a global trend, a reminder to all businesses. The world is changing, and so are consumers. They are no longer passive shoppers, easily swayed by flashy advertising campaigns. They are smarter, more conscious, and more demanding. They want to be respected, heard, and to feel that the brand they support genuinely cares about them and their community. So, what's the ultimate lesson? It's that empathy and adaptability are the keys to survival. A brand, no matter how great, if it fails to understand the core values and unspoken desires of its customers and is unwilling to adapt accordingly, will be left behind. From familiar fast food to large building material stores, a powerful shift is underway. Canadians have proven they are not easy customers. They want to be treated as partners in a real relationship, not just a revenue stream. Once trust is broken, rebuilding it will be a long and arduous journey. This story is not just a warning for American brands. It's also an opportunity for them to reflect, to understand that sustainable success comes not just from scale or financial might, but from the ability to build and maintain genuine relationships with customers and communities. And it's also an optimistic message for the future of consumerism. A future where human, community, and sustainable values will be increasingly emphasized. Who will seize this trend and become the next hero in consumers' hearts? Time will tell.